Foul is Fair. Chapter 14, Venturing into the Wilds. So which way are we headed? Megan asked as Kasha hitched up the cats and put the extra pack of supplies in the chariot. That way, Aisling indicated, towards the unfordable river. Sounds reassuring, Megan said dryly. Don't worry, Aisling said. We're headed for the part with the flesh-eating fish, not any of the Jenny Greenteeth's green-toothed Jenny's green teeth. Well, there's a bunch of them. 27, I think. They might have gone to school together. Megan sighed. Flesh-eating fish? And fast-moving rapids. And we're right between a couple of whirlpools. They'll occasionally try to meander out a bit, just to see if they can get in on the drowning people action, Aisling said. Whirlpools don't usually do that. Not the whirlpools you're used to, Lanny said. Keep in mind where you're at. The environment is going to have a certain attitude about things sometimes. And we do not just mean flora and fauna, Aisling said in an attempt to re-seize the conversation. The magic and the very essence of a place will care deeply about some things and not others. The ballroom at Anchak Jera has an incredibly hidebound, aristocratic personality, and there's no reasoning with it. Although, my cousin Nessa tried once, with visual aids. Lonnie continued the original subject. Besides, the river has to be pretty bad in order to keep a pack on the other side. Pack? Megan asked, not liking the sound of this. You saw some of the pictures of the wild hunt. When the huntsman calls them, they can come to him over anything, to anywhere. The rest of the time, when they're not chasing someone down, they need somewhere to be. The plains on the other side of the river is it. Oh, well, of course. So we're crossing an uncrossable river in order to go hang out with some hounds that love nothing better than running people down. That's only when the huntsman calls them, Kasha said. Without his magic behind them, sometimes they like to chase, sometimes they just like to sunbathe. And they're not quite as tireless, only mostly. Still, very reassuring, Megan responded. Megan, we're going to manage it, Lonnie said, catching up and laying a hand on Megan's shoulder. I have some ideas. Besides, said Aisling, getting there is just half the challenge. Fingis itself is bound to be much worse. Enough people have gone there and back that we know about the rivers and the hounds. No one gets past the front gate. Or, if they do, they haven't come back. Are you sure you're Seelie? Megan asked the overly cheerful pixie. You get too hung up on the team's things, Aisling answered. Seelie just comes from an old word meaning cheerful anyway. I thought you said it was punctual. Punctuality is among my virtues, but it's definitely all about the cheerful part. What about the queen and her general and those knights? They looked pretty serious. On the outside, sure. Inside, they're singing show tunes and doing high kicks. Trust me. Megan blinked, trying to picture that and failing. If you say so. Are you going to tell me the real story of where fairies come from next? Lonnie grinned at Megan. You're catching on, she said quietly. Of course I am, Aisling responded without taking any notice of sarcasm or Lonnie's response. Fairies come from the dust the eldest gods rubbed out of their eyes when they first awoke. Fascinating, Megan said. Now, just to check, if Seelie means cheerful, does that mean Unseelie means not cheerful? Because the gray lady kind of looks it. But Kasha, I'm crying on the inside, Kasha said without missing a beat. I'm sure you are, Megan said. You'd think so, but they're actually totally unrelated words. Very different etymologies, Aisling said. I think you mean etymologies, Megan replied. I would, except Unseelie are descended from dragonflies, so it totally applies. Aren't Unseelie still fairies? Well, of course they are. Are you still worried about the teams thing? There's not as much difference as you seem to think. Sure, the Unseelie are more prone to, say, eat people or cheer for the villain in slasher flicks, but otherwise, not so different. Megan was about to respond, but Lonnie shook her head. I'll keep that in mind, Megan replied instead of her previous question. She reviewed the conversation in her head. Speaking of the gray lady, if will-o-wisps feed on emotion, why are some hanging out with her? She's got more of a zombie thing going on than an emotional thing. Grief is an emotion, Kasha said. Those wisps just don't mind getting the same thick, juicy steak 5 meals a day. What happened? She lost her kid a long, long time ago, but it kind of overwhelmed her identity. She's not a zombie. She's a banshee. Banshee? I thought they screamed. She doesn't even talk. Let's just be glad of that, okay? After walking a little further in relative quiet, Megan finally asked the other question that had been bothering her. So, that redcap, the one who chased us before and was hanging out with his buddies back at Anchakjira, Lonnie filled in. Yeah, that place, Megan said. How likely is it he's going to get a bunch of his buddies and come after us now? I mean, obviously someone trapped my father, and they won't want us to get the sword. About even odds, Kasha said, depending on how much they really want to stop you versus how much they don't want to upset the queen, or be on Riacard's bad side if you succeed. But they came after me before. Sure, but no one cared then. You were on Earth. A few of us like the place, but most fairies only visit every now and again. Now, lots of people are watching. You're not just some mortal who doesn't know anything anymore. You're the king's daughter. People will notice and care if you disappear now. But they still might come after us? Oh, sure, they could. Obviously, someone put an awful lot of effort and magical resources into this. Trapping Riacard isn't a small feat. You don't live for thousands of years and rule for a lot of those by being an idiot. You don't seem very worried. If they come after us, we'll deal with it. I think they're much more likely to hope the river, the hounds, or the city kill us. Of course, I could be wrong. And if you are, then I figure out which of the cats to listen to. Which of the cats? Well, yes. Maxwell is pretty sure we can outfight a gang of redcaps or hags or bogies or whatever else there is. And Jude? Kasha grinned in a way that didn't suggest she was being entirely serious. He's pretty sure we could outrun you.